Hello and thanks for joining us for our late night newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. We begin with President Park Geun-hye's trip to Africa. The South Korean leader has wrapped up her stay in her first stop of Ethiopia, boosting Seoul's relationship not only with that country but with the continent. President Park is en route to Uganda, her second stop of the Africa tour. Our correspondent Song Ji-son, who is travelling with the president, files this report.
Korea and Ethiopia summit talks were aimed at fostering mutual growth for the future, while creating a bridge to each other's continent. From infrastructure to e-government, the two countries put pen to paper on 40 MOUs, including building a textile complex near Addis Ababa, and over 200 local buyers sat down with Korean companies at a business forum. In a speech to the African Union, President Park laid out her vision for a comprehensive partnership between Korea and Africa.
한국은 아프리카와 한 방향을 바라보면서 함께 가고자 합니다. 비록 시간이 걸리더라도 함께 한다면 우리의 꿈인 평화, 번영, 통합이라는 목표에 이룰 수 있습니다.
Reaffirming the solidarity between Seoul and Addis Ababa, President Park expressed deep gratitude to Ethiopia's war veterans. Over 6,000 Ethiopian troops fought on the same side as South Korea during the Korean War in the early 1950s.
You will be happy that when you see the Korean progress at this time. But more than you or more than anybody else, it is we who will be happy because our sacrifice is not for nothing.
The president also encouraged South Korean troops dispatched in South Sudan, thanking them for rebuilding the country, keeping the peace and providing medical care.
I obtained my medical doctor's degree in Britain and enlisted to serve in the military. I wanted to answer my country's proud call.
지금과 같이 잘 해준다면은 남수단에도 좋지만 또 우리 대한민국의 위상도 높아지고.
President Park also garnered support from the leaders of Ethiopia and the African Union in reining North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Wrapping up our itinerary in Ethiopia, President Park took off to Uganda on Saturday, the second stop of a three-nation East Africa tour. She'll hold summit talks with the leader of Uganda on Sunday. Song Ji-son, Arirang News, Addis Ababa.
Now, just before leaving Ethiopia, President Park Geun-hye took part in an opening ceremony of Korea's development project called Korea Aid. Ethiopian President Mulatu Teshome also took part in the event. The project is aimed at providing healthcare and cultural services for disadvantaged people in East Africa. And before she makes her second stop in Uganda, President Park Geun-hye vowed to boost ties with that country in an op-ed contribution. Hwang Jie with the details.
Heading towards stronger ties and cooperation with a country that's on a dynamic path of development. That's what President Park Geun-hye hopes to achieve through her visit to Uganda, the second stop on her three-nation swing through East Africa. In an op-ed contribution published in Uganda's New Vision newspaper on Friday, President Park expressed her gratitude at being the first Korean leader to visit the country since Korea and Uganda established diplomatic ties in 1963. She also expressed hope Korean companies could take part in infrastructure projects in the country, as Kampala has been emphasizing the importance of it. She highlighted the Saemaul Undong movement as a model case of the two countries' joint efforts in infrastructure development projects. President Park also pledged support for the movement to take root in Uganda and help develop rural areas. Citing the geographical importance of both countries in Northeast Asia and Eastern Africa, the Korean leader also called for stronger cooperation in defense and political affairs to ensure peace and prosperity in both regions. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Now, for the past few years, Korea has been sharing its homegrown rural development model to Uganda as part of its foreign aid to that part of the world. For more on how the so-called Saemaul Undong is taking hold in the African country, Oh Se-young reports.
Diligence, self-help and cooperation. Virtues of Korea's Saemaul Undong movement are inspiring rural reform in Uganda. With more than 70% of Ugandans living in rural areas, agriculture is the backbone of the economy. But extreme climate conditions and a shortage of infrastructure has stalled the country's progress in raising income and the standard of living. As part of its foreign aid to Uganda, Korea introduced the Saemaul Undong movement, which spurred Korea's rapid rural development during the 1970s. Its can-do spirit drove impoverished villagers to build up their communities and foster an atmosphere of shared prosperity. Saemaul Undong is now a global development model in fighting poverty, creating wealth and increasing social capital.
Other countries provide ODA in the form of material aid only. Korea also provides infrastructure and technology, but more than that, we bring a change of mindset, instilling the confidence in local communities that they can defeat poverty.
After Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni expressed his interest in Saemaul Undong 3 years ago, Korea joined hands with the UN Development Programme and the Ugandan government to set up 3 Saemaul villages. And last year, Korea helped establish 7 additional pilot villages in the central district of Mpiji, helping locals address needs ranging from farming, health and infrastructure to education and governance.
All the Saemaul villages run different programs. Whether it's water management, building roads, or improving education, the locals identify their own needs and make the decisions at community meetings. It's a self-reliant system based on trust and cooperation.
Nurturing community leaders is another core part of Saemaul Undong. Korea set up an education centre in the district to train roughly 300 students a year on farming, leadership, management and other skill sets. An opening ceremony to be attended by President Park Geun-hye will be held on Monday. Officials say she will introduce Korea Aid, a new ODA programme that will hopefully take root throughout Africa. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, in other news, visiting UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has met with former South Korean Prime Minister Kim Jong-pil. Further fueling speculation, Ban is considering a run for the presidency next year. The two met for around 30 minutes on Saturday at Kim's house in central Seoul. No one else was at the meeting. Pundits say the two probably touched upon the 2017 presidential race, but nothing is known for sure. As well as being one of the world's most powerful diplomats, Ban's credentials as a possible presidential candidate come from his political base, which is Chungcheong-do province, a region considered a bellwether for national sentiment. Kim, who served as Korea's prime minister twice, is also a prominent politician from the region. Ban's remarks earlier this week that he's thinking of what role he should play as a South Korean citizen after his term as UN Secretary-General is over in December seem to suggest a possible run for the presidency. The head of the US Federal Reserve has given her strongest hint yet that the Fed will raise rates in the summer. Speaking at Harvard University, Janet Yellen said it would be appropriate to raise interest rates in the coming months if the economy picks up as expected and jobs continue to be generated. She didn't specifically say whether the hike might come in June or July, though. Aside from her remarks on rates, Yellen gave an assessment of the US economy. She said it has made a great deal of progress in the slow recovery since the global financial crisis. The Fed raised rates in December of last year for the first time in nearly 10 years. The World Health Organization has rejected a call from scores of leading medical experts for the Rio Olympics to be moved or postponed because of the Zika outbreak in Brazil. Experts say it would be unethical for the Games to go ahead in August, but the WHO said such actions would not significantly alter the spread of the mosquito-borne disease. The letter was signed by 150 international scientists, doctors and medical experts from such institutions as Oxford, Harvard and Yale universities. It says an unnecessary risk is posed when 500,000 tourists and athletes could potentially acquire the virus and return home to places where it could spread quickly. The Zika virus has been linked to microcephaly, a condition that can cause babies to be born with abnormally small heads. For centuries now, women on Jeju Island have made a living by free diving to harvest valuable gifts from the seabed. These fearless breadwinners, called Haenyeo, did the impossible every day with almost no proper equipment. In the final part of our special on the pride of Korea's southern island, our Mungonyeong focuses on what's being done to carry on their legacy.
Jang Mi-ra calls herself a Haenyeo storyteller. Mesmerized by the elderly female divers of Jeju Island, the professional photographer moved down to the island from Seoul 3 years ago to document their stories.
A big siren goes off across the fishing villages and hundreds of Haenyeo simultaneously head towards the water together. After about 5 hours of harvesting in the water, another siren goes off. Everyone stops what they are doing and head back to the shore.
82-year-old Cho Ok-sun has been a Haenyeo harvesting sea products from underwater for the last 70 years. The provincial government of Jeju began providing support for these Haenyeos a couple of years ago, purchasing their wetsuits and subsidizing their medical and accident insurances. Despite these benefits, the 82-year-old tells me she'll be the last Haenyeo in her family.
A granny in the neighboring village drowned recently. She breathed in water. It's harsh, it's dangerous.
The number of sea women has continuously dwindled over the years, from more than 30,000 in the 1960s to roughly 4,500 today. The small number of Haenyeos are well advanced in their age as well. As of 2015, more than half were 70 or older. This is the Hansukpul Haenyeo School. The residents of this village built the school to raise awareness of the Haenyeo culture.
Haenyeo are the first thing that came up on the internet, and I just thought it was such a cool profession with a really beautiful history.
This past weekend, Mark Lippert, the U.S. ambassador to Korea, came to Jeju to try out the profession himself. The island's remarkable sisterhood of Haenyeo, their strength and sacrifice, represented Jeju already past, the Jeju of old that can never be regained. Noise made by the divine women who have been making a living by constantly negotiating the limits of that which sustains their breath. Sumbi Sori is as thin as a blade marking the horizon between life and death. It's a reminder of the legacy of strength, sacrifice, and endurance the sea women of Jeju leave behind. Moon Gan-young, Arirang News, Jeju.
Now, acclaimed Korean piano player So Hae-kyung is back in Seoul for the first time since her last concert here around 6 months ago. This time, she offers her latest interpretations of some of Mozart's most famous compositions. Kim Jong-soo with the details.
A God-given talent whose music portrayed life's unpredictable highs and lows. That was how internationally acclaimed pianist So Hae-kyung described Mozart at a press conference in Gangnam on Thursday. So is in Korea to promote her new album and an upcoming concert, a collaboration with the Korean Chamber Orchestra scheduled for June 16th. She also used the opportunity to look back on her career and share her colorful memories.
I believe I've acted as a bridge connecting the new generation of Korean classical musicians and the international stage. I hope people continue their enthusiastic support for the Korean classical music scene.
Born in Seoul, So made her orchestral debut at the age of 11, performing Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21 for the National Symphony Orchestra of Korea. As a teenager, she continued her musical education in Japan and later attended the Juilliard School in the United States. She has since performed all around the globe and toured with acclaimed orchestras including the Philadelphia Orchestra, the London Philharmonic, and the Shanghai Philharmonic, among many others. So said Mozart's timeless music and the composer himself have served as a valuable source of inspiration during her evolution into a world-renowned pianist and proud mother of two. At her upcoming concert in Seoul, she promised to present a more complex interpretation of Mozart than she has in the past.
When I was young, I thought Mozart's music sounded simply jovial and high-spirited, but at this point in my life, I realized that his music conveys a solemn willingness to smile even after enduring some of life's most devastating obstacles.
Next month, Korean audiences will have a chance to witness the pianist's rendition of some of Mozart's most iconic pieces, right here at Seoul Arts Center. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
And finally, we're going to leave you with a brief look at the weather. Most of the country is under partly cloudy skies tonight, and that cloud cover will provide us with quite a mild night as well. The low in Seoul will only dip to 16 degrees Celsius. Sunday will be partly cloudy again, but warm, with the highs inland at least in the mid to high 20s nationwide. With that, let's take a look at the weather around the world. Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.